प्रवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततत्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। So we are revising the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and I find just another commercial for revision. Revisions are very, very useful, and I discovered somewhat late in my life how important that is, but I just get so much out of it. I'm just reading the sixth chapter of the Panchadashi on my own in the mornings. So it's a very long chapter, it's like 293 verses. And I just finished doing that about a month back. And instead of going on to the chapter number 7, I decided to revise the sixth chapter again. And I tell you, it is so wonderful because your ideas are somewhat fresh, but still not completely done. So that is the most beautiful situation for you to consolidate. And I find that I think I've spent 1 month revising it. I might do it one more time just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. So revisions are, I find, a wonderful way to look at it. And it also, you know, your mind is always, you want to come up with something new. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. Let's go to the next chapter. But you haven't really consolidated the thinking. And it doesn't mean that you take the same amount of time, but it's just very enjoyable, very enjoyable. Anyway, so we're revising the fourth chapter. And as you know, the fourth chapter, which is fourth and the fifth chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, their main focus is jnanam. The main focus of the third chapter is karma. Both are done equally, but there is a focus on it which is more important. One side thing, one of my old-time friends, Mr. Paul Gupta, passed away last week, and it's an interesting situation because he had told his son that if I am close to passing away, please call Vijay Kapoor and make sure that you involve him. So he called me about a week or so ago and said that my father is just about ready to be, he's in very serious danger. So you please come. So I went to his hospital, and as it is done, the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is usually chanted on the death of because it deals with life after death, what is the next thing you should do, and all of those kinds of things on the 8th chapter, which will come sometime. So silly is wonderful thing that I was able to, he was awake, because before that he was in sedation, but on that day his son called me and he says he's awake. And so please come. So I rushed over to his hospital in Stanford Hospital, and I chanted the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskritam and also in Hindi, because I have a translation. He doesn't know Sanskrit, so I thought I will also talk it to him in Hindi. And I told him a couple of other things. The whole family was not sure whether they would actually want to continue on with the artificial respirator. He's had cancer for about 3 years, and there were some complications, and he was in and out of ICU. So they were looking for some outside person to give them an advice on whether they should continue to do this artificial respiration or not. So I saw Paul at 11 o'clock a week from last Sunday. And I said, Paul, if I were you, this is my honest feeling, I will go now. You've done everything that you wanted to do. And you need to just look at yourself, your next life. And your attention should be now towards Ishvara, who is your constant companion. And he was nodding at my words, listening. And so by that, I'm telling the family also that let him go. Let him go. Don't try to prolong it. This is the way I would do it. Very interestingly enough, he was listening, his wife was there. So I left him at about 11:35 or so. So I talked to him for about 35 minutes. 1 hour later, he passed away. So the whole family has been very grateful that we had a chance to really look into the essence of this and so on. So there is some work involved in, so going back to the karma and jnanam, so there is some work involved, which is karma, and some knowledge involved. So here I think I've given you this very interesting example that occurred to me in my life, which is a very, very important example for me. What happened about 6 months ago was that I woke up this morning and I was going to go out, and so I had my exactly this wallet with me. And I opened it up, usually check to make sure that everything is okay. And this credit card was not there. Now, you know as well as I do what happens when you find that your credit card has been lost. Immediately you start thinking, oh my gosh, where is it? Where have I lost? So then you have to think about where to go, who to call, should I stop payments? It's an enormous worry immediately. And just as I was starting to grapple with the implications of losing my credit card, something occurred to me. The previous night, I made a credit card purchase from my desk on the computer. And you can imagine the change in my emotions, in my thinking, and so on. What a relief it was. So what that meant was that the credit card is somewhere in this room, isn't it? It's not somewhere in Walmart or, Whole Foods or whoever I might have gone that day, but it's with me. So now, just look at this. There is some work involved. I haven't found it yet. But I know this is close by. So the jnanam is that it is around here. This is absolutely knowledge. No one has to tell me that. If I had not remembered it, perhaps my wife would have remembered. that, listen, didn't you make that purchase from your credit card last night? And that would have sort of said, yes, I did. That is jnanam. So in this instance, karma and jnanam are reversed. So look at this. This is called apraptasya praptihi and praptasya praptihi. So apraptasya praptihi is the gain of something that I don't have. I don't know where my credit card is. There, to understand where my credit card might be, karma is the primary one. I have to start making phone calls. I have to go there and ask them. And phone calls nobody picks up these days. You know, those days are gone. And you don't have it on your texting or anything, like nobody looks at. So you have to drive there. You can imagine. This is called apraptasya praptihi. However, if it turns into praptasya praptihi, then the role of karma and jnanam reverse themselves. Because I have the knowledge that I have it. Not directly yet. Aparoksha I don't have. It is paroksha, still paroksha. But I have the knowledge that it is with me. The work involved in finding it is trivial. It is without any worry. It is almost like you are curious. Where is it? And in my desk, as it usually happens, I hope you do better than me. I have so many papers and so on and so forth, layers of things, which I usually clean every, once a month, maybe twice a month, but it just accumulates. And in there, in between one of the layers was it. It took me like 5 minutes to clean up because I knew it is around here somewhere. The implications of this in Vedanta are enormous. So our biggest accomplishment in studying Vedanta is that a sense of Paramatma, complete freedom, is praptasya prapti, natu apraptasya prapti. And so what that means is the sense of freedom, complete freedom, is not where I have to work for primarily. Because I don't know where Ishvara is. I don't know what my relationship is. I don't know where I'm going next life. All of that is I'm not sure of. It's called jnanam, but this is like not finding your credit card. You don't know where it is. And so there you have to do a lot of karma. This is why people go to temples, pray a lot, and they go to pilgrimages and go to Char Dham, thinking that somehow Ishvara will bless me with his presence and I will get something. And generally speaking, you postpone it to the next life. That I don't have any really chance of becoming Jivan Mukta here, but at least let me secure my place in the future. So this is the hallmark of apraptasya praptihi, where karma is primary and jnanam is not sure, not pakka, not absolutely sure. And the biggest gain we can have in the studying of Vedanta is at least be absolutely sure that the acquisition of Paramatmatvam is praptasya praptihi. Praptasya praptihi, natu apraptasya praptihi. So it doesn't mean that some work is not involved. But the work becomes very pleasant and much less spread out. I am within myself. I just inquire and sharpen my inquiry. It's very possible I may not have found the credit card within 5 minutes. Might have taken me half hour. But the sense of security, I don't have to get it in the car, knock around at various places. The typical thing in these things is you can never remember where you were yesterday. Even to construct that sequence is not easy. Very different. Very different. So also with the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. So there, the main teaching of Krishna towards the Arjuna is that please, don't you see that your sense of freedom is very close to you. It is within you, not even close to you. It is you. And if you refuse to see that it is you, that's okay. I understand that. All of us went that way. Please see that it is within you. So the within you-ness is just a step. But the sense of giving into the study, now it becomes kind of like a interesting curiosity. Where is it? How come I don't feel? How come I don't experience? There you have a smile on your face when you do that. Very much like, I know the credit card is here somewhere. Where are you hiding? Completely different. So in the 4th chapter, the 4th chapter is actually called Jnana Karma Sanyasa Yoga. So the name of the chapter, 4th chapter. So in the 3rd chapter it was Karma Yoga. And the 4th chapter and the 5th, two of them, the Jnana comes first. So here it means that just like in the case of finding my credit card, the knowledge that credit card is not lost. It is here. It was really a wonderful thing because I really had made it. This is a real life case. The only place they have my credit card number is Amazon. And but this was on some other one. I don't remember what I bought. And so I had to give a credit card. That was an eye-opener. The moment I thought about it, I said, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Now I was relaxed. Even if I don't have it, it doesn't matter. It's around here somewhere. I can use my other credit card. And this is exactly right. So here in the 4th chapter, the name of the 4th chapter is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. What that means is that establish your jnanam by making sure that you understand that the sense of freedom, if you understand it is you, so much the better. If you don't understand it, something very close to you, within your control. That's the key thing, is within your control. It's interesting, Swami Maheshanji had made this comment, a very interesting comment. I think I may have said that to you last week. If you look at the various schools of thought around the world, the Vedic thought, some of the ancillary thoughts from Vedic, like Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and so on and so forth. And then the ones that are completely different, Christianity, Islam, and so on and so forth. So they all have some focus. So if we look at the religions, the Vedic thoughts, like schools of thoughts like Christianity and Islam primarily, they are focused on God. Main thing is to the study of God. And from there, what are your responsibilities in reaching God? This is what they're focused on. The other side of that is Buddhism, very interesting. In Buddhism, not only is there no focus on God, there is no God. And the entire focus is on the human being. Your feelings, your thoughts, the veracity of those thoughts. Are they real or not? Will they give you some... It's all about you. There's no God. And their feeling is that if you keep on analyzing and so on and so forth, you'll get to the very bottom. Vedanta doesn't agree with either one of them. It says you have to look at both sides. You cannot completely figure out your own reality without bringing in Ishvara. How did it begin? You'll always have a doubt. Where am I going? You will. It'll be more like a yoga system or pranayanam where you're just feeling good about yourself, but then the moment you open your eyes, there is the reality. What about that? You have to figure that out, which is nothing but Ishvara. And if you focus only on Ishvara, you miss out on the reflection of Ishvara in your own life. You are also just nothing but a mini Ishvara. So both have to be done. So this is the very reason why you have both Tap Tvamasi. The equation of both of them are there. So that being the case, the Jnana Karma Sanyasa, which is the title of the 4th chapter, becomes very relevant. Because you have to ascertain exactly what the knowledge is, that it is really you. Now the karma that you need to do is there, but it is of a different nature altogether. You don't have to worry about it. You don't know whether it will happen or not. It is going to be there. So the study of Vedanta should be primarily to convince yourself with the help of the Shastra that my sense of gaining moksha is praptasya prapti, natu apraptasya prapti. This is an important thing to see. Be that as it may, so now we can go into the what we did. We've already had one class on the 4th chapter, and there we saw that Krishna, for a couple of good reasons, focused on a couple of side topics before Jnanam was taken into account. And the side topics were, what were them, if you remember? One of them is to establish sampradaya. Sampradaya. And this also is important, because sampradaya means that you now are listening to someone with authority. This is not just a speculative human thought. This is another interesting thing about the Vedic teaching, is that, in fact, I forget what it was, whether it was an interview I saw or a book or something. Somebody said, you know what is remarkable about Hinduism, the Vedic spiritual teaching, is that unlike other spiritual cultures that are under attack and actually perish, their belief systems perish. Hinduism never seems to perish. Why is that? It goes through some tough times, but no one has able to do that. There is a very good reason for it. We should know this. Vedas are not made by human beings. Apaurusheya. This is what is called Sanatana Dharma. So Sanatana Dharma doesn't mean that it's been around for a long time. That's not what it means. It means they are timeless. It means it is the very voice of Ishvara. And the voice of Ishvara, by the way, another interesting thing as implication of that, the voice of Ishvara is conveyed in Sanskritam language. Sanskrit is also Apaurusheya. It is also the Vani of Ishvara. It's not a human-made, very precise, and just a perfect language. So both the Vedas as well as Sanskritam is the voice of Ishvara. Human beings cannot, you are the product of Ishvara. You cannot reach the very karana of yourself. You cannot touch Ishvara's work. It will never perish. Never perish. It may go through some attenuation, up and down, always there. It's a very interesting thing to observe about Vedanta and Vedas. Anyway, so the reason I brought that up is that in order to reinforce it, Krishna goes into the first side topic, which is Sampradaya. The very first, we've already done this. This is a revision of the revision. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivaswan manave praha manu ikshvakave bravit. This is the first topic. I think we won't do that. Then the second topic was the topic of avatara. Topic of avatara. What is the necessity for it? What are the differences? How Rama and Krishna and though these are Vishnu avatars, how they came about, what is the purpose of them, how they're different from any other human being. All of that was discussed in the so we went up to verse number 8, which was Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Now we start verse number 9. So in verse number 9, the emphasis is on Ishvara. Remember, I was telling you just a little while ago that in Vedanta you have both sides that have to be examined, like an equation. So you have a complex equation, and you have to solve both sides of the equation until you find that the two are really equal. And one side is Ishvara, and the other side is Jiva. And you find that the Jivatvam and the Paramatmatvam are basically resolved into the same thing. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. And so the teaching can be emphasizing one side of it or the other side of it. And it does both. Here in verse number 9, it says, appreciate who I am, what my qualities are. Focus in on Ishvara. So he says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjarma na eti mameti saha Arjuna. So he says, Arjuna, please see who I am. I am beyond birth and depth. And if you understand my Mahima, then you will also become me. Because my Mahima includes you. You do not limit me. I am also limitless, just like you are. There's only one in limitlessness. So this here, so here Krishna, he says that, see me, I'm an avatara, but I am infinite because I know who you are, who I am. You are also infinite, but you don't know who you are. That's all. You think of yourself as a room space, and I think of myself as space. That's all. We are the same thing. But you're hung up by thinking of yourself as a room space. What can I do? So here he draws the attention. The Jnanam has not started yet. That'll start in verse number, I think, 18. But he's now building up to it by saying, appreciate me. So divyam means extraordinary. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha, etc., etc. Then, in verse number 10, he highlights an important element for understanding the limitlessness of both Ishvara as well as yourself. So this is what is called nirgunatvam. In order to understand nirgunatvam, you first have to go through sagunatvam. Sagunatvam. And sagunatvam means the first stage is you should see that even though the creation that you are experiencing, my creation that you are experiencing, you are independent from it. You have nothing to do with it. You are the Parama, you are the Atma, and that is given a sample in the deep sleep. A little taste of it. Just like you go to some place and this happens in these farmers markets. So you go there and you have something very new, you've never tasted it before. So you say, what is this? So he says, no, try it. So you are not sure, then you try it and you taste it and you say, wow, this is good. And then you end up buying it. And so similarly here also, the nirgunatvam of Brahman, which means the nirgunatvam of you, is given a taste in deep sleep. Just a little taste. So you don't feel that this is the nirgunatvam and then in infinity and so on. These are just concepts that there is no reality to it. Hey, don't say that. You are there. It's an amazing thing. I sometimes think about it. 1/3 of our day, maybe take out some for Swapnavastha, but really close to 1/3 of the day is spent in complete experiencing of Ishvara without any sangha, without any problems, without anything. No matter what happens, you are completely devoid of it. I was just telling this. So since the death of Paul Gupta, then they've had, in fact, the cremation is tomorrow. And so I'm supposed to spend the whole day tomorrow with it. But anyway, in the evenings, they have, all the people come and then they sing bhajans, and then the family had invited me to give some talk on the Bhagavad Gita, which I did. And I also give us some general talk. And, I told everyone there. That from a Vedantic standpoint, which is the truth of the life standpoint, not some conceptual, but this is how things are. We do not consider the fall of the body as death. Absolutely not. It is a change of scenery. And I said, if you want to understand, I don't know if anybody, I think a couple of the people said, wow, that was really good. I learned a lot from that. But generally speaking, people may not accept it. I said the only difference between death and deep sleep, which is the reality. The only difference between them is that in deep sleep also you are disconnected from your world. There's no wife, no husband, no children, nothing. You are. Because right now when you are awake, the wife, children, husband, this, that, or the other, all part of your are all there, part of your personality. This is how you visualize yourself. I am 65 years old, and I am Indian, and I'm doing this, and I've got this, and I've got a granddaughter, etc., whatever. That's, by the way, not me. I'm much more older than 65, so that was just a sample from I just picked up. And so this is how you visualize. But in the case of deep sleep, you have disconnection from all of that. And then you have a reconnection when you wake up. So the only difference between sleep and death is, in sleep, your equipment is still working. And you reconnect it to the same people that you left last night before you go to sleep. In death, your equipment has to be discarded, and you have to reestablish your connection with a new set of friends and mothers and fathers and so on. That's all. Minor difference. In both cases, really you have a pause. That's all that happens. And I didn't spend that much time, but this is the truth. I have to tell everyone that, he had a good life and so on and so forth. And I says, don't worry about him. He's got his own agenda. You carry on with the legacy that he's brought to you. Anyway, this is what I was talking about it. So, I veered away from the subject a little bit. So in verse number 10, what is pointed out that the appreciation of nirgunatvam comes in two stages. One is sagunatvam, then comes nirgunatvam. Sagunatvam means so what sagunatvam means is that even though what you see in front of you, you are disconnected from, but even the prapancha, the whole creation that you see in front of you, is also the work of Ishvara. See, this is an important thing to see. It's not as though Ishvara has nothing to do with your experiences. And you are saying, hey, leave all of that. That's not me. You come over to my side. This becomes a competition. Even the prapancha is done by Ishvara. Nishprapancha is also done by Ishvara. So one is Swabhava, the other one is Swarupa. So the first step in understanding praptasya praptihi is to understand that even my life and the results of given to my karma phala and prarabdha karma, everything has an order to it by the Creator, who's with me all the time as my protector. So that sense of relaxation You know, if somebody feels that I'm alone, I have nobody to deal with and so on, it's not proper. Because we don't realize that Paramatma is with me all the time. I need to just discover it. I am discarding Paramatma as my Sahari. There's not, I just want some people to help me. This is not correct thinking. So my first thing I have to do is to see that I am actually well taken care of. Good or bad, according to my karmas, whatever happened. Some things may not have been that good, some things are okay. But overall, I'm supported and controlled as Antaryami. All of this has a lot of depth to it. But here, in verse number 10, so in verse number 10, it's interesting. It says that in order for you to appreciate the subtlety of your being nirgunaha is not easy to do. Because as we were discussing in the Mandukya class in the morning, what really holds me back is that I am wedded to a sense of having some form. And formlessness scares me. I'm not afraid, I'm not ready to accept that. That is what we were spending a lot of time on in the Mandukya. So, but this says is that really, don't you see that ultimately you want complete freedom? And in order to find complete freedom, you should see how limitedness is experienced by you, how it is discarded. And so therefore, to see the presence of Ishvara in your life, what you need to do is to understand the presence of Ishvara in the nature of how you make your life. So this is what is called Karma Yoga. So you have to convert your life as a prayer to Ishvara. If you are able to do it, and this is easier done than to understand your nirgunatva. But it's the first stage. You cannot go beyond that. You have to first accept praptasya praptihi. So this is what is being talked about in verse number 10. Bhitaraga bhayakrodhaha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhava amagata. Madbhavam agata. So this is an attempt by Krishna to say, please, be my bhakta, and convert everything into, just leave me with work. I'll take care of you. You don't have to worry about it. You're not the only one. And do your duty and leave the karma phala to me. And then your mind will be ready to be completely free of all the prapanchas. So that's here Swami Paramarthananda from Chennai. I was reading his commentary on this verse. Very beautiful commentary, really speaking. It says that there is a process of gaining freedom. So first, there's 3 stages. 3 stages of dependence. 3 stages of dependence, and the 4th stage is independence. The first stage is the dependence on the world around me. Very nice commentary. I mean, these are all the same concepts, but the way they are put together by somebody sometimes and makes a huge difference. This has struck me as a very, very truthful and a very good advice. So the first stage is, which is natural. As soon as the baby is born, then you depend on the mother and the father and teachers, friends as you grow up. This is called world dependence, dependence on the world around you. And then your thinking is, I am totally dependent on this world, which is true to a large extent. How the world treats you is how you behave, and so on. So this is called world dependence. The second stage is God dependence. Ishvara, dependence on Ishvara. And that is an appreciation that everything that is happening to me has been signed off by Ishvara. Signed off by Ishvara. I was telling you this is a story of my long time ago when I first joined Hewlett-Packard back in, I was at 72. And I was in marketing. And I was working for only like a year or a year and a half or so. And there was a job that came up which somebody had been promoted out of that job, and there were some other people being, and I was thinking that I'm very, very qualified for this promotion. And when it was announced that I was not one of them, I was very disappointed. And so I went to a second level manager who I thought didn't really know me very well, and so on and so forth. So I said, this was Ed McCracken. His name was Ed McCracken, who became the founder of Silicon Graphics. And he was my second level manager at that time. So I said, Ed, I just want to let you know I'm very disappointed in not getting this job. And I think, personally, I think I'm better qualified than the person who was selected, and so on. And I just wanted to introduce myself so that you get to know me a little bit better. So I remember what he said to me so well. He says, by the way, that decision was mine. So I said, what? He says, not, I was the one who did that. Secondly, I think very highly of you. And I think you need to spend more time broadening your experience. And we have some other good things later on, but don't be in a hurry to become. So that was and it turned out good. Later on, I really got some very good jobs and so on and so forth, and I did well. So here's the situation. When you have some bad things happen to you, and then you pray to Ishvara, in your own mind, whether you go to a temple or you do it at your home and so on, your attitude is, don't you know what's going on? Why can't you help me? Is this, I'm your devotee, I have nobody else to go, but you seem to be very busy in other things. And really this Ishvara will say, I know I am the one who gave you that problem. That's exactly the situation. And so the second stage of my growth is to understand, good or bad, nothing is outside the signature of Lord. It is all done with His complete agreement. In fact, He's the agent for all of the things. And at first it just seems like unacceptable, because it feels very nice, when you have some people that are not good to you. And so this is, in fact, this is the situation where you segment spiritual life and secular life. I'm often given this kind of a feedback. That Vijayji, when I'm in the class, I feel good, but these other people, they're so bad. How am I going to deal with them? As though this is a separate segment, and that is a separate segment, and then Ishvara doesn't touch them. I don't know, this is a bad situation. everything is spiritual. Everything is really done by Ishvara. There's nothing outside of that. And the sooner I try to understand it, the better off I will be. I will fight it for a while, but eventually I have to see that whatever is happening to me is as a result of the previous things, my carelessness and whatever it is. And so Ishvara's karma phala is never arbitrary. It is all done with preciseness. Nothing is really by chance or by not being aware of neglect. Nothing. Not possible. So this is the second stage. The first world is world dependence. The second one is God dependence. Then comes the third stage. Self-dependence. Self-dependence. What does that mean? It means, as Swami Dayananda used to say, you are the problem, you are the solution. Very well put together, very nicely done. It means that really speaking, this is exactly, going back to the example that if the room space, if the space had some consciousness, Chidakasha, which is really the truth. The Atma is Chidakasha. Chidakasha means it is aware. I am aware, I know. Even these words are heard within the consciousness. I am aware. So this is Chit. And it's Akasha. Akasha in the sense it is limitless. It's not as though I am not aware here. I am always aware. And even if I feel that I am not aware when I die, that is also conjecture which is not true. And so this is called Akasha. This is Akasha. Akasha means that it can never not be. Limitless. Always there. As we studied in the Mandukya, Ekatma Pratyayasaram. And so this is Chidakasha. But I don't get it because I am like a room space. I am Rumakasha. Rumakasha. I am Rumakasha. So Rumakasha means, no, actually in Sanskrit it says Ghatakasha. So this is what is used, Ghatakasha. So Ghata means a kind of like a pot, clay pot. So just like we have, limited space, as we know very well. So limited space means that I am growing out of this. I only have a one bedroom. It's only 1,300 square feet. I want more space. So there, the use of space is with respect to the utility of it and so on and so forth. And so I don't get rid of that feeling that I am the room space. In spite of the fact that I'm told, wait, the room does not enclose the space. The space and the room cannot enclose space. The space is enclosing the room. There are so many rooms in the same space. And if the roominess is taken away, the originality of the space comes up. Just like, for example, supposing this room is flattened out, you're not going to create another entity, it will already remain space. So, the self-dependence, the third stage of this verse, I'm actually spending more time on the revision than the original one. Honestly, at this rate, we may not even finish chapter 4 after 2 years. But in any case, some ideas come, so I thought I would just, regardless of how and so on. I don't have any fixed agenda. Did I ever promise to you that this will be done in 1 year? No. I did promise, by the way, on the Panchadashi. On the Panchadashi, Narayan, who was sitting there, he says, Vijayji, do this as a 6-month course, then you will get more students. So I said, that's a good idea. So I started advertising it on as a 6-month course. We have spent, 3 months, and I think we are 1/10 of it. So one of these days, people will come up and say, you're not fulfilling your promise. So I'll deal with that person at that time. But here I never made any promise. I said, finish the Gita from whatever time it takes. So this third stage of self-dependence is the following. I am the one who, despite the sage advice given to me, continue to cling to the false impression that I am a room space. And I am the one that has to solve it. This is a very important thing to see in the setup of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is the avatar of Ishvara, as we know. Means that Gita is a very interesting because it's Ishvara talking. No other book you will say Ishvara did this and God did this God created and so on. This is himself first hand talking. We don't find something like this. So Krishna is an avatara. And he and Arjuna are very good friends. One of the best, they grew up together. And Arjuna was a very good person and very well educated and so on and so forth. And yet he had this problem. That I don't want to fight, and I don't know what dharma is, and jnanam, this is all confusing to me, and so on and so forth. So it would have been easy for Krishna to put his hand on the head of his friend and he says, I give you moksha, you're my best friend, I am Ishvara, you're done. It doesn't happen. He scolds him. Ashocyan anvashochastvam. He said, you talk like a fool. And then Arjuna also says, you are confusing me. You say, sometimes you say jnanam, sometimes you say karma. Please tell me which is good for me. All these kinds of things. It goes on in dialogue. Why? Because if the room space has decided that I don't want to be total space, I just want to be slightly bigger. That's it, air conditioned. I want to be air conditioned and it should be nicely all, insulated. And there should be no pollution. That's all I want. I don't want total space. Okay, fine, all right. So this is self. So from God dependence comes self-dependence, which means I have to give up my false ideas about myself if I want to be totally free. And so, interestingly, Swami Paramarthananda didn't say this, but I will add to it. So there are 3 stages to the process of improvement. One is natural, world dependence. The second one requires some work, God dependence. The third stage requires even more thinking, which is self-dependence. And the last stage is independence. No dependence on anything. This is what moksha is. That is the very nature of Atma, is independence. But I don't know how that is, because immediately my conduct, my experience, my behavior and all of that is all dependence based. It all depends on whose dependence I am, but it is dependence. No. So this is the 10th verse. So this is a three-stage process. We have about 10 minutes. I don't know if you want to have any questions, or should we go on to the next verse? There's no question, so let's go on to the next one. So verse number 11, we'll just finish with that. So here Krishna makes an interesting point on numbers 11. He says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tans tatha eva bhajami aham mama vartmanam anuvartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. So Krishna says, by the way, if you don't want moksha, I'm not saying that you are the one who wanted moksha. If you don't want moksha, that's okay with me. Whatever you want, I'll give you the results of what you want. What do you want? Then you say that, I want to be a bigger room space. I want to be like that hall where Swami Viditatmananda talks. This is just a small class. Those guys are, how, okay, fine. All right, we'll make sure that you'll get a better class. You'll get expanded. So, however, so this is an interesting thing, in the way the conduct is. You cannot tell someone what to do. You have to allow their natural propensities and you deal with them at that level. I've told you this many times that none of my family members are into Vedanta. None of them. And you know what? It bothered me for just a short time when I was also not mature, I guess. Doesn't bother me now. Why? Because they are Ishvara's children. They're not my children. And Ishvara will take care of them. If they want some advice, I'll give it to them. And my best advice to them is to lead a comfortable, nice life and inquire. And if I keep scolding my children every time, they are now grown up and so on and so forth. I don't understand why you don't study Vedanta. This is really the real stuff. You're just wasting your life. I'll spoil their life, I'll spoil my life. What can it be? I was telling before that once I understood not completely understood, but I got a very good introduction to Atma and so on. And really my older sister, who's about 3 years old, 2.5 years older than me, so she and I grew up together, and I still consider her to be one of my best friends, and even continue to. God, she's still alive. She's in New Delhi, and we have a lot of love with each other. So nice. So I remember when I first got an introduction to Vedanta, I was thinking, oh my God, wait till I tell Lata about this. Didi, I call her Didi. I was just thinking, wow, it'll be so wonderful. So the very first chance I had, I said, I have really, she says, what did you do for 2.5 years? So I said, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. Some wonderful thing. Let's sit down and talk about this. So she says, okay, let me do that. In the meantime, the cook came in and says, Mem Saab, lunch, what should we have for lunch? So she said, Vijay, I'm sorry, I have to deal with this guy. So then she was dealing with it. I was just sitting there and saying, wow, this is going to be so wonderful. Then she comes back and so on and so forth. Then some telephone call comes in. And then even when I'm trying to explain this whole thing to her and so on and so forth, she says, oh, sounds very interesting. Okay, we'll have to look at it sometime. Even to this day. I sent her some, she says, I said, Didi, you have to understand the Gita. This is very important. And to this day, I feel that. She says, no, I know, but then, my eyes I cannot read very well. So I sent her Swami Maheshananji's volumes on the Gita, the three. I said, you know Hindi very well, and she's a very good scholar of Sanskrit. I said, you should read this. Last time I checked, she had not gone beyond page number 10. So exactly, ye yatha mam prapadyante. Krishna says, you don't have to seek moksha. Whatever you want to do, I will deal with you at that time. But you should see that behind all of your desires, you really want moksha. You need to discover that. Any sense of lack of limitation, which you only see as temporary, is permanent. No one wants to be limited at any time in their life. You should discover that in behind all of your desires, worldly desires, whatever it is the desire to be freedom. I'm hoping I'll go with whatever you want, because I know that forcing you doesn't work. My hope is that you discover that there is something deeper. And then when you do that, then please come to me. And in fact, that's going to do on verse number 18. So that will be the last one we'll do today. And so then we've got a few more verses to do. Then we come to the main topic of verse number of chapter, fourth chapter, which is Jnanam. And there's only a few places in the Bhagavad Gita when Jnanam is directly addressed. It happened in the second chapter, about 11, 12 verses in the second chapter, which is a summary. And this is the first time where Jnanam would be directly addressed and then elaborated again later on in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's how the fourth chapter evolves. So we'll continue our tour of that. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Haven't you seen that